Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. We have Paul coming back today to share his second Bigfoot encounter that happened later, I think around 12 years old. And this one was a very terrifying story. Now, his first one, if you haven't seen it, um, it was a story about having a friend that was a juvenile Sasquatch, kind of two, but the female basically was befriending him. If you haven't seen that, hover the mouse over the screen, tap the screen, whatever you're using. I don't know, but if you do that, a little circle will pop up in the right top of the screen, and it has a white circle, looks like an exclamation point. Click that, and it'll give you what YouTube calls cards. It's a little drop down menu, and I will put Paul's first video in the cards there, and you can go check that out. This video will stand on its own for sure, but if you watch that one and this one, you will have the whole story. And so I really believe that you'll enjoy that if you haven't seen it. But anyway, this story is awesome. You got to watch it. If anyone has a story that they would like to share here on Brenton's on Mysteries to Search, you can email me at brentonson@gmail.com and give me a brief description and contact information. And if you don't want to come on the show, then write the whole encounter out or the whole story out, and I can read it in a future episode. And then let me know what you want to use for your name, full name, just first name, or whatever you want to do. Just make that clear. All right. If anyone wants to contribute to help me make this content here on YouTube, you can go to the PayPal Me link that's in the description. And I also wanted to say, and I say this at the end of the show today, but I worked at a PBS station called KET here in Kentucky. It was the #2 PBS station in the entire world, next to one in Japan. And once a year, we would have a fundraiser, and we would raise money to help the budget and to do more, do better, do all the things that you need to do to make programming. And worked on Comment on Kentucky. I worked in distant learning. A few different things while I was there, but I had someone comment, and it was saying something about asking for contributions. But anyway, that's something that even PBS stations do. So if you want to contribute, you can. If you don't want to, don't. So that's about it in a nutshell for that. But I've had people contribute here lately since I've asked, and I very much appreciate it, and it's needed this month and through the end of next month till the next numbers come in. And typically this showed us pretty well. Summertime dip in the numbers, and any help is much appreciated. So I just wanted to throw that in so that people kind of understand why I'm saying you can make a contribution if you want to help. All right, let's go and listen to Paul's story. It's a very good story. You're going to like this one just as much as you did the last one. Very interesting, and a few deeper things here we touch on, and you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through this story. And you leave your comments in the description. Give your opinion, and tell me what you think. Enjoy. Okay, Paul. Now, you had come on a day or two ago and talked about the encounter that you had when you were a child, kind of an ongoing encounter with the female juvenile Sasquatch, and the brother, I guess, was also juvenile, but the friendship was kind of more with the female. And there's a few questions people had we might address toward the end of this. But you had one more encounter that was a scary encounter, I guess was later in life.
Yeah, I was 12 years old.
Okay. I guess what we'll do is we'll talk about that one. You can tell that story, and then we will digress back and answer a few questions that I've seen in the comments about the juvenile Sasquatch when you were 6 years old. Um, I guess that will kind of tell us where this encounter was and just take us through what happened and give us the details, description, everything like that, if you would.
Okay. So this, the second encounter took place when I was in Hyman, Pennsylvania. I was 12 years old. I think it was the spring of 1983. And it took place between the intersection of the west side of Hyman, Pennsylvania, between the dump, the baseball field, and the old railroad tracks that went down to the train bridge. So anybody in Hyman, Pennsylvania will definitely know where I'm talking about. I lived right there on that side of the tracks. Place was called Hollywood. My house was right across from the convention center, or not the convention center, medical center. And all that was woods. It was like a field that had been laid down, and there was all these rows of where they come in and taking the trees down. I guess they left the tops in piles, and great big pile rows, probably a quarter mile long. And I used to go there and play in it and climb all the stumps and all that craziness. I went down and was fishing in that area, and I had won the trophy rainbow trout for Pennsylvania for the opening season that year, just on half of accident, to be honest. Because took my line, shot it in the water, had a treble hook on it, had grub worms on it, and I was just dragging it along as I was walking down off the side of the bridge, off the concrete framing on both sides of the river there, Wills Creek. And I scored that trout. It was a mystery. But nevertheless, when I came back to my foster parents the following weekend, and I was given my my Pennsylvania plaque, and my fish was where they preserved it for my trophy. And I went back down there to go check that out because I was kind of like, wow, that's really strange. I was not interested. I was not trying to fish. I was just clowning around and got this like 14-inch rainbow trout. And so down there clowning around, and I don't know, I must have been down there a couple hours. And I said, well, I think I'll take the back road, which was the old railroad tracks. And I would go across the old railroad track bridge. Now, there was no tracks on it, but there was the old cross ties. And it was kind of scary to cross over them. And some of them were rotted and missing, but it was always an adventure. There's one particular, at this particular time when I was on my way back, I remember thinking, like, I think somebody's down here fishing, because I was hearing, sounded like people talking, muffled, like across the creek. But I never seen anybody, and I was just heading back, moseying it at my own leisure on that mound of where the tracks used to exist. And it must be possibly a mile all the way back up to Hyman from there, between the baseball field, the dump, and down to the water reservoir. As I was coming up that stretch there, I remember that I felt like, yeah, I guess somebody was watching me, or somebody was following me, or maybe somebody was trying to taunt me. Because being a kid back then, there was a lot of goofy older kids that ran around. They were the drinkers and the pot smokers, and they were always clowns doing something. If you're down there swimming, they might be throwing stuff off the hillside at you. That was common. So I just assumed that. But as I got closer up to that little 3-4-way intersection, before you hit the pavement, I really felt like something was on me. Something was attached to me. I felt like the atmosphere around me was thick. I remember feeling like anxiety or nervous, and almost like a background sense of fear coming on, or trying to apply itself to me or something. I don't know how to really say that, but it's like, you shouldn't be scared, but is somebody messing with me? I'm like, I've just walked all this distance and kind of had this strange feeling. So I'm looking around, and for some reason, I start doing this, looking and bobbing, and like kneeling down and trying to look into the brush to catch the light from the other side to see if I could make out a figure. And I was like, something's going on here. Well, as I'm really going through this, all of a sudden voices come alive in my head, like audible, loud voices. They're like saying stuff like, you need to get out of here. This is dangerous. There's something not right here. Keep going. Do not stop. You shouldn't be looking around. And I'm like, man, what is going on? And I'm really trying to figure it out, because I'd always played there. I had no fears. We also rode our three-wheelers and dirt bikes up and down that lane and all through the baseball field and stuff. And maybe if I'd have been on the other side of the Wills Creek up on the mountain, I would have some concerns for fears, maybe bear or something. But down in this little cove area, no, I just think not. Shouldn't have, but I was challenging it. And the fact that I was looking all around me, I even looked down towards the dump. I looked back towards this other road to the left. I'm looking all the way down. I'm like, is there somebody here? Is there somebody around? And then this voice is like, you just need to go. There's ain't no time to clown around. You need to go. I'm thinking, well, why would I be wanting to go? Go where? What's wrong? Why would I be having this intense, push for that, or that feeling? And I'm resisting and challenging it, it just gets thicker and the voices get louder. And I remember looking back to my right, all the way back behind me, and scouting the area like Dad told me to do when we were hunting for deer, because he said, you may have to look, you might have to focus, you might be looking long ways, and you might have to wait a second to catch movement. He says, just scan slowly. And so I was kneeled down, kind of squatted down, scanning, standing up, standing, and scanning. And still I hadn't seen anything, but this is so intense that the whole atmosphere around you, I've heard people say tingling, but I didn't feel like tingling. I felt like a very thick atmosphere. I didn't feel like, it was like very thick atmosphere. Maybe you felt like you're being pressed. And then the fear started settling in. And the only thing I want to say before I get too far is that when I was scanning towards the road behind me and back to the left towards the baseball field and the houses and the main street right there, there was a big tree, I thought was a big tree, that it got struck by lightning that stood out from all the other trees. But it was down over the embankment from the tracks, and it was in the little dip right here from the off between the first diamond plate and the second diamond plate, more towards the second diamond plate than the tree line. And so it was thick, wide, it was big, but I was not focusing. I was looking for a bear. Okay, I was looking for a bear or something that would consider me food. And as the next voice came into my mind, it was my foster dad's voice, and it was a comment. If I didn't act right, he would say, get your foot, one foot in front of the other before I plant mine knee deep up your ass. And it was always a bad thought because he's like, then he would be in the hospital having surgery removed. And anyways, that voice automated so loud 3 times that my body, my mind, and my inner soul man, I guess, said, forget your body, we're out of here. And I took off. And as I did, this loud roar came out, this loud scream, this loud, it sounded like an old bellowing drunk man yawning, I guess. And it like dragged out. And it was so loud and so hitting me, it felt like it traveled through me. Tears blew out of my eyes. I pissed myself. I said, oh my God, fall into those people's yard to the left and roll over and see what's going to attack you. And now this is probably, you can see in the pictures just how far that house is from that that little intersection area where I was standing. I hit those people's yard and rolled over and looked up like this, and there was nothing to see. I'm looking up the sky. I even picked my legs up and looked down, and I was like, where is it? What is it? And the people were on their porch. They were elderly people, and the man gets up and opens up the screen door and says, get off my lawn. What are you doing? I don't know what you pissed off, but get off our lawn. And I was like, I'm horrified. I couldn't even, my body was not catching up with me at this time. I'm almost frozen, all pissed, all tears flowing out my face. And I'm pointing, and I'm like, he said, I don't know what you pissed off, but bring it up here. And I'm like, oh my God, really? It sounds like hell behind me. I pissed something off? No, get out of here. And he's got these signs in his yard that said, keep off the grass. And he had this little dog, and it's all barking and acting crazy. And so I picked myself up off the ground. I'm scared to death. I'm having a hard time being able to move. And I dragged myself off to the lawn lengthwise because I wanted to make sure I was on his lawn if something did run out of the brush and grab me, snatch me up, that he could definitely see or maybe assist in helping me. And I walked across the street, and I'm going to go ahead and just say this. My friends across the street were Josh and Wendy, and Brooke was our babysitter. And her dad was probably my really best friend next to my foster dad. I ran right through their houses. They're like, hey, what's up? Right between the two houses of Josh and Wendy and Brooks. And Josh was and Wendy, I think, were both out there. I think they were over at my family swimming pool, to be honest. And they're kind of in the backyard there. And they're looking at me, and I'm embarrassed now because I'm like, tears rolling out of my face. I got pissy pants. It was obvious something was wrong. And I just like, something chased me out of the woods. And I ran to the house, and I ran in, and I'm telling my foster mom, and she's like, oh my God, what is wrong? And you look, oh my gosh. So she's like trying to tend to me, figure out what's wrong with me, what had happened that I'm in this situation. I'm telling her to go ask the neighbor. I said, something was there. Something was trying to attack me. Well, what was it? What did it look like? Well, I don't know. I didn't see it. And she's like, well, maybe it was a deer. And I'm thinking, what the heck would a deer want to attack a boy? You know, I mean, where do you get that at? But I don't know. So after I get myself together and I get myself bathed and I get clothes on, Brooke and Wendy and Josh all showed up over the house, and they're like talking with the foster mom and me, and they're like, oh man, well come on, we'll go over there. And I'm terrified. I'm thinking, no, I don't think it's a good idea. So we waited till like later that evening, and we walk over there, and we're all standing in the same spot, and I'm showing and I'm pointing. Now, mind you, I told my foster mom the whole story, and I told her about where the burned off tree was. It looked like it got struck by lightning, and that's where it came from, the roar. Because my head's like this when my body took off, and I'm scared to see what's roaring. You know what I'm saying? I turned my head back up for that roar to see where it was coming from because, oh my God, I wanted to be feet and get out of Dodge. It's like an out-of-body experience movement, for real. And we're all standing there, and of course, Wendy and Brooke are like, oh, it's probably a deer, and they're looking over the embankment side from the road there down over to the baseball field, and they're like, yeah, you could have been standing up here. And I'm like, if it was standing right there, I'd have seen it. And I'm thinking, guys, are you not getting it? I pissed myself. I'm crying. Tears flew out of my face. How is this a deer? How's this a bear? And I was like, listen, something I think was in front of me over here in this bush, but the roar came from over here behind me. And I said, well, I'm done. I'm not going back in the woods ever again. My foster dad gets home, and we're all telling him the story. Me, my foster mom, and I think Josh was there. And he just kind of was like baffled. I can remember the look on his face like, a bear? And my foster mom said, a deer? And he's like, not a deer, unless it's in rut season. And so he was like, well, let me just stay out of there for a little while. And so just prior to that, the year before, I had went and taken my hunting license. Due to my birthday, they let me take it and get my certificate the year before. And so I had been hunting with my dad. I went deer hunting with him that winter and whatnot. And then here comes spring, and this is when this issue occurred in '83. And so when my dad and them wouldn't believe me and said I'm just in my imagination, of course they already think I have a wild out of this world imagination anyways. Here I am. I said, you know what? That's fine. That's perfectly fine. I go downstairs. I go right to my hunting outfit. I grab my the hunting certificate out of the big end badge deal. I take it right back. I said, here, I don't want it. I'm not going back in the woods. I'm done. I'm never going back there again. That scared me to death. There's something out there, and it wants to eat and kill me, and I'm not going back out. Well, I kind of blew my dad's mind, and nobody ever knew what to think of it. Everybody just thought I was just kind of lost or out of my mind. But Dad was always kind of baffled, like, you're really serious not going out hunting with me? You're supposed to be my hunting buddy. No, I'm not. No rabbit hunting, no deer hunting, no quail, no more pheasant, nothing. I'm done. And basically that's the end of that story. It wasn't a big story, but that was my adventure in Hyman, Pennsylvania. I would have never knew, I had any clue what this was. In all my life, I've told this story. And just 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I came back out here from California and reunited with my dad, my real dad, not my foster dad, and got to meet him and know him. And I hooked up with some old high school friends. Well, I was only 12 years old, so it was middle school, out of Cumberland, Maryland. And one of the young ladies, went to her and her husband's house and was hanging out with them one night. I started to tell her a bunch of my adventures and stories of what had happened and how we hadn't seen each other and how I disappeared from school and what had happened behind that. And I was like, you know, you were up around that area and you always played in the woods. I said, have you ever experienced anything crazy that happened that would cause you to piss yourself or something in the woods, some strange animal beast thing, but not friendly? And she was like, no. And I'm like, but y'all have been up in the woods partying, drinking, and all that all night long and nothing? No, why you asked that? And I'm like, well, Kelly, I said, when I was in Hyman, Pennsylvania, I said, there was this something that happened, and I told her this story, and I said, this roar was like a, and I was doing that, and I was just like, no, kind of like that. And I kept trying to, but I couldn't get it out the same way. I said, basically take that for the lump sum it is. I said, and it went through me and made I pissed myself. I couldn't control nothing. Tears blew out of my eyes, flew down my face. I said it was intense, and I felt like I was out of my body, but inside my body, looking at the, you know, this portion of the flesh body part, and it was like, leave you behind, sucker. I'm out of here. And she was like, no, I never heard nothing like that. Well, so last year, around September, you can hedge this in by looking into it. I follow Perry Stone Ministries online YouTube and the Manifest and whatnot. And they got onto the Nephilim, the fallen angels, the giants, and somehow I got pushed over to Robert Skiba, the flat earth, the giants, the Nephilim. And he goes into the details and starts elaborating from the flood, from after the flood point. And I think we have all tried to talk about that through YouTube over the past. And I think we've all kind of like crumbled into our elaborating with each other on this. But I think we all still, I think we believe the same thing. Just that we take it from it's a DNA genetic start instead of like they were here and bred with the women started. And then not that we know, that's where our pitch came from, the idea of how these Bigfoot got here. But nevertheless, anyways, so as I'm watching the Robert Skiba deal, and they're talking about it, they go to this Bigfoot, and I'm like, wow. And then Robert Skiba says something about a Bigfoot movie. And I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to go check that out. That should be all right. And I go look, and I don't know if it was the Boggy Creek or another one I can't remember right off, but there's about 6 of them from back in the 70s and 80s era. If you remember what I thought around the Bog Creek. It might even been the return to Bog Creek, but that thing roars out right in the beginning opening, and I was sitting here, and it hit me. It hit me, and I was like, whoa. Tears flew out of my eyes. I was like, what the hell? I was like, whoa. I said, that's it. That's it. You can't fake that. That's it. Excuse me. And so I was, that's when I got on this kick. That's when the whole doors opened up, the whole lights came on, and opened everything up to this. And, you know, as I'm digging into this 24 hours a day, even while I'm at work, I'm like running through this. I'm like, Jesus, nobody's ever going to believe this. Nobody believes it. Look at all the people that don't believe it, you know, already. And then you're like, I was there and I had this experience. You can't fake this. And you're like, all right, so I'm really going to sit here and try to convince people that I had this adventure. They're really going to buy this. And surely they already think I'm half nuts anyways half the time, so this is really going to fly real well in life. So I kept it to myself for the most part, you know, and only told a few people here and there. And as I kept adventuring into it, I had noticed qualities and characteristics that were in the videos of people that were catching them. Where the bobbing and the beat, the behind the trees and stuff. Like, I remember when the juvenile did that. It was like a praying mantis. And it wasn't constant. It was just like, if something got their attention, it was like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's what, actually, the Holland video of the guys in Holland who were up at the water tower, and I don't know if I sent you a link to that, but that, when I seen that, and when I'd seen it bob behind the tree, I was like, that was the second thing that hit me. I was like, oh my God, the juvenile. And I was like, oh my God, she would do the exact same damn thing. I'm like, God, it was a juvenile. And I'm like, this is really off the wall. So I was floored. And so this is where I've been for the past year, just absorbed and consumed. And even to this very day, it's like, I still feel that there's something of an attachment from that to me now. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's in here or in here. I don't know. If they are a evil spiritual entity being on the inside, and, you know, people say with the adults there is dredge, and I know I felt that. I don't know if they can attach themselves to you. I don't know if it's like a bad smell or like a skunk spraying and it gets stuck to you. I don't know, but I've always felt this attachment to these encounters. And now I feel like I'm alive for the past year out of the twilight zone of the grand mystery of what the heck happened here. Yeah, and then here we are today. Talking about it.
Well, yeah, I don't know if there's some attachment, like something that's attached to you, but I can see that you, even when you talked about the juvenile Sasquatch, I think that you went through some things from childhood and then going to this foster home. And then you developed this encounter with this juvenile Sasquatch. Um, and there was no other kids around, so you were playing with this what you thought was a kid. Um, you didn't really know what it was. Your parents couldn't acknowledge it. The parents of the Sasquatch, that was another thing people were asking. The juvenile Sasquatch that you were playing with basically was telling you that that its parents, the male and female adult Sasquatch, wouldn't allow her to be playing with you, and she also was letting you know that your parents wouldn't allow you to play with her, so you all were um, playing, and she knew that it wasn't going to be acceptable from either one. So,
I'm not sure how much that we were playing was a concern, but not meeting the parents. You know what I'm saying? That was a big no. And like, even when my foster dad, Bill, said, "Oh, that's the Negro. Don't worry about it. There's just black people." I was like, so relieved. I'm like, oh my God, I never knew no black people, okay? I've never seen a black person when I was a kid. There was none in it where I grew up. There was none. I've never seen one before. Never, we didn't even have TV in my family's house. And I never knew what one looked like. And so when he said that, I'm like, oh, thank God, that's cool. And so I told her, I was like, don't worry about it. You're a Negro. It's black people. They're fine with it. It's not a problem. Come on, I'll introduce you. They're cool with it. You know, I was like, way cool with that too. You know, here you can know my parents, and we got food, and we can do whatever, man. They're cool. We ride 3-wheelers and hiking or on the motorcycle. But you know, this is just my thoughts running wild. You know, you're my friend. We'll go. And she was like, no. When we grow up, we change. We don't feel the same. We're not the same as we are when we're young, as far as how we see or feel or respond to human children, or because not adults, they're just, I guess, children or kids. Like, I don't know if it's a puberty thing or something. I don't know, but I just remember. I feel and think that she was pushing the like, hey, you need to know that they're not the same as we are. When we grow older, we're not the same anymore. We don't. This is not. We're not acceptable to this anymore. I don't know. I felt like it was not of their own free will, but it was like a forced thing, or it was like a transformation maybe that happened. I don't know. And of course, me, I was just like, well, no, my parents are fine with it. Cool, that's cool. And she's like, no, they're not going to be fine with me at all. And that's how that went. Also, I wanted to add that, you know, because the fact that I could walk outside and be gone 2 hours and come back, people I noticed in the comments, and I don't want to speak for you, but I want to add that, you know, was there a smell? I don't smell well. I've never smelled well. When I was 3 years old, my older sister spun me around like a windmill and slipped out of her hands, and I flew face first into a bed frame and broke my nose, and you could see it was crushed. I can't smell that well. I can smell a cigarette if you're next to me and I don't smoke. I can smell that. But not from a distance, not very well. It'd have to be something intense and very close. When I got sprayed with a skunk, I didn't even smell that. So I didn't know nothing about a smell, but as I was saying, I could be going outside for 2 hours and just wander over in the woods and have an encounter with her. And I don't know if it was just being next to me or if she would touch my shoulder, because I never kept a track on that. But I could walk back in that house and they would send me right back at the door talking about how god-awfully smelling I was. And they'd be like, Dad said, you smell like you fell in shit and rolled in trash. I was like, all right. And I was like, no, I'm clean. I wouldn't even get in. debates with my foster mom. I'm like, but I'm clean. I'm not even dirty. I didn't even get in the dirt. I didn't even sit down on the ground. She was like, you are dirty. You smell. You can't smell that? No, can't. And yeah, there was a smell that was so bad that when my uncle, my foster dad's brother, came, he was like, holy hell. Did you do something in your drawers? No. He went, and because it wasn't that only time, but several times, he smelled and was like, and then even his daughters, Brenda and Gwen, they were like, man, what are you doing? Where were you been? I was just like, I just went down to the lake. Come on. We could come back. No problem. But if I went down and I had an encounter, or I spoke to them, or I even walked with her, I'm almost sure there was almost every one of those times, I got the blues about how bad I smelled. So Raymond goes and makes up shirts. It says Cold Bucket on it. And on the back it said, I'm dirty and I smell. Beware. And that was the one shirt. But the other one just said, or something of that nature. The other one just said, my name is Cold Bucket. And that's where I got this name. And it carried on clear up until I was about 13 years old. And I went away. And I didn't see my foster parents for a while.
Do you see your foster parents anymore?
My foster dad died in 1995. He was a Vietnam vet, so he had real broad lung cancer, and they removed one this long. And then in 1995, well, I didn't even know this had happened. He had died, and when I went and seen my foster mom, that was in 2003. I hadn't seen her in about 12, 15 years, and she was telling me everything, and I was like, all right. Pretty much, she had moved on with her life, so there was no sense for me. Like, I don't know, I didn't feel like we were still family anymore, and I just kind of left it at that. And they owned a bar there, but she got remarried and moved away. And then the last thing I heard, I think, was about 6 years ago. There was a posting about a lady by the name, but I didn't recognize also the maiden name, which could have been the married husband, had died. She was a teacher. She was also she retired and then was an assistant at the University of Pennsylvania, the college up there in Pittsburgh, around Pittsburgh. She was a professor or something like that there, and she taught there for numerous years. Like I said, it was about 6 years ago, I guess, that I heard that under her name and whatnot, they had died. And so, pretty much thereforth after that, I considered, okay, I can go ahead and just tell the things about what had happened with them over there and my past life there, which didn't have nothing to do with these.
But they raised you from 6 years old up until you were
12, 13. Now, mind you.
Okay, then what did you do after 13?
Well, I had a bad encounter with somebody that robbed me, and it constituted me going away for a juvenile. And I spent 4 years away, locked up in juvenile permanent corrections, state of Maryland.
Okay, then were the foster parents involved with you after
because
that?
When that happened, my mom implicated all this, and because she first of all was jealous and didn't like the fact that I had foster parents that were the bomb, they were the best. They didn't spoil me, but I was just a good kid, and we loved each other. So they, I got to have everything that a single solo kid in a family would possibly have or want, and I didn't ask for much. They just kept me entertained. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a 3-wheeler, I had a little 50 with the small tires on it, and I had video games and a swimming pool in the backyard with a diving board, the only one in the whole dang town of Hindman, next to the mayor. The mayor did, but it wasn't public, of course.
But did they did they pursue any more relationship with you after you had went away to juvie or what have you?
When I got out of juvenile, I was 18 and a half, and
I
I
mean,
actually
while you were there.
they had no idea what happened to me. I didn't find out until after I got out, and I went to go see them. They had no idea what had happened to me or where I went, and Mom would not answer the phone to them, or when Mom did, or my grandparents did, they would say,
Well, if they had custody of you, they would have had to been
no,
notified.
they didn't have custody. I went in at like 5.5. I was there a year and a half completely. After that, I went home, but I didn't want to be home. So every weekend I would go back, or I would potentially have issues at home. So the mom would send me back over, and I'd go stay a week or two or a month, come back for a weekend, go back for another month, and that's how I
So,
kept.
okay, so these weren't necessarily foster parents. These were people that were taking care of you and you kind of terming them.
They were foster parents at first, and then after that, when they were released of the situation of foster parents by the state, I, of my own free will, and of course, because I was so much more, they were so much more parents than my mom ever was. I was all about them, and so I kept going over. I tried to stay there as much as possible. They wanted to adopt me, and my mom and grandparents assisted in trying to fight that. And see, I never knew that either, because if I'd had my say so, I'd have said sayonara. I'd have been gone. Would have
Yeah.
been my foster by a long shot.
You see, I know that you when I'm listening to the stories, the Bigfoot stories and stuff, you had some very extraordinary things happen there, and you also had these extraordinary foster parents that were taking care of you. So and I did not know that you at 13 or what have you went away. But I kind of was thinking there's because you feel like there's some attachment from the Bigfoot stuff. Um, I almost think it's a there's something deeper than that, and it's a relationship something or another that I think that you've not healed of. Okay, are you alone now?
Oh yeah. You mean married or like that, or you mean just?
No, I mean live by yourself
Yeah,
and
I live by myself.
okay.
After I got divorced from my wife, I just I've been I had a girlfriend, got her pregnant 12 years ago, and she was Cuban, and she just said I was a sperm donor and dipped out the day she had the baby. Yeah, crazier than hell. Out of Ocala, Florida, and that's why I left Ocala, Florida. I was furious, man. I so wanted to tear that city down, and my grandfather built most of Ocala. Oh,
Well, I mean, if you have a kid with her, you have rights as a father.
no, you have no idea what Marion County, Ocala, Florida's law is. If you get a woman pregnant, the day that baby's born, they throw you out of your house. If she says she don't trust you, or she's scared of you, or anything of that nature, they throw you out of your house, move her and the baby in. If you got a vehicle, they take the vehicle from you and give that to her as well, because
Well,
she needs
they
that.
might do all that, but I'm saying that you could get legal right to have a relationship and visitation and what have you
They
with.
wouldn't let me. And then that was my first year fighting that. And she was born in August 16th of 2008. In 2009, I spent that year right there, and I left from there on out. Uh, and I spent the next year and a half on the road homeless, trying to do and work it into in existence. And every end that I went to, and everything that I did, even my grandmother talking to lawyers, there's nothing they can do about it, because for one, she didn't live in Ocala. We were just down there temporarily working for the summer. And so she lived in Hanahan, North Carolina. But she dipped out and went straight to New York and got into a battered mothers program. They said, whoa, negatory. And from there, she made a leap to Texas, And the last thing I heard beyond that was she was talking to me on the phone, playing games with me. And I said, well, I'm coming out there to Texas. I'll be homeless. I just want to see my daughter an hour a day, once a week. I don't care, just something. I want to know and see my daughter. And she's like, oh, okay, come on out. And yeah, we'll work it out. And I go all the way to Texas. I filmed all the way out there from Ocala, Florida. And she was never even there. She said she was in on the other side of Dallas in Fort Worth. Nope, not even close. Said she was in a college and part of a program. They were giving her credits, and she was going to get in a HUD house and all this and that. I didn't want none of that. I just wanted to see my daughter. She didn't even have nothing to do with me. I gave up my palm tree business in Ocala, Florida, because it wrecked my mind when they did that. I just I'm done. I left.
All right. And I know that we're getting off subject from the Bigfoot thing, but where you feel that you might have had some type of attachment. Now, there's going to be people that jump on that bandwagon, and say, okay, yeah, that could be it because they're demons or what have you, which I think they're probably Nephilim. You're saved now, right? You believe in Jesus?
Oh yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, then you, the Lord, He's a good shepherd. Okay, and He's not going to let some entity attach on you like that. Not in that kind of way. I just really I'm kind of looking at these relationship things because it seems that you had this relationship and then she had to go away. And I know that was hard because so you've had these relationships that start and end. Okay, let's just say that. So there's some uh, association there, something unresolved, and this and it's kind of a complicated thing, but it's not. I don't believe it's that complicated. I think it's kind of hard to sit here and explain, and I don't guess we'll go into that here on this video. But I think that there's something, this attachment that you feel might be due to this relationship, these relationships starting and ending abruptly and things the way they have. And this relationship with this juvenile Sasquatch was a really good relationship. You seemed to play, and it was your friend, and what have you. And then for there to be a traumatic thing with this roar and be terrified and humiliate you in such a way, being a Bigfoot situation, and you even said that these things change when they get older or something like that. I just believe that there's something there that might need to be explored. Okay, because it was a very hurtful thing with this roar, this traumatic thing. So if this was all Bigfoot and then it ends in a trauma like that, with your experience with Bigfoot, then I could see you feeling that there's something not resolved, something, and you're feeling it's some type of attachment. But I think that it's an emotional attachment, so to speak, but not necessarily.
Both sides, sure.
Okay.
One side bad, and on the other side with the juvenile was all good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's just my guess. Okay. So I mean I could be wrong.
Well, it's a speculation bucket on this encounter. Really, I mean, we're all just guessing, or pitching food for thought.
Yeah.
Just kind of lost on
the juvenile Sasquatch thing is just fascinating, though. It really is, and there's some unanswered things because when she says they change when they get older. That's kind of up in the air. You don't know exactly what that means,
I don't either, but that all the horror stories that I've seen and heard, I'm thinking, on YouTube and all these encounters I don't know nothing about the dog, man. I don't nothing I've ever met in my life. These are the only two things like that, outside of, that's an alien abduction, but, those were the only two things in the woods, you know what I'm saying? that everybody seems to have a bad negative encounter with the Bigfoots in the woods. You know, and I've never heard of anything about the juveniles. Just that the one in Holland. You know what I'm saying? And some. I think the guy in Florida. I don't know what that. We didn't really hit it off good, but he had a picture where one was sitting down and he said it had a baby and it pointed its finger. You know, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about?
No, no.
Some guy in Florida who is researching Bigfoot. I don't know. We didn't hit it off good at all, but nevertheless, he said, "Yeah, I have a video that you can actually see one." And he said it was a female, and the eyes blank, and she points, and supposedly, I guess she points at them. And yeah, you could pull that out of it, but I think the lady said there was a baby. She thinks there was a baby Bigfoot with it. And so everything I've ever seen or heard about the juvenile baby Bigfoot was with the mom. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know that there's a case in Australia where there was I think it was a girl who played with a Bigfoot when she was a kid, and it was kind of regular. And the Bigfoot parents would be in the woods watching, though. Her parents didn't know, and they didn't even believe her when she would tell them and things like that. But that was
I sure would like to talk to her.
Yeah, I'll have to find the information. And she even came back later when she was grown, and she had seen it, but it wasn't the same. Almost like it didn't necessarily remember her. Something like that. I can't remember exactly. It was something like that. So that change that you're talking about might be something like that. There's some animalistic, more a change that begins. It may even be, if they are truly Nephilim, there may be something that changes spiritually.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Going from the human DNA aspect over to the angelic DNA aspect. There may be some type of ritual. There may be, I mean, who knows? So there might be a spiritual aspect that changes for them. I mean, that's speculating for sure there. And the people that don't believe the Nephilim theory, that they would certainly not agree with that. But I'm just guessing. I'm just making a theory. What possibly could be. But we collect information and we try to make sense of it. And there was something different when she went back and she was older, and she did encounter the thing, but it wasn't the same, or something different. Almost like you said, you went to see your foster mom, and it didn't feel the same no more.
Yeah,
like what kind of something like that kind of feel.
I didn't feel like the family attachment no more. It was like that was gone. I just felt like somebody visiting somebody at their house. It's crazy, man. Well, just like, wow, I don't feel like it's my foster mom no more.
I maybe she didn't show affection or something, but I can't hardly see that someone would raise you from 6 years old up to 13 and not have a love for you, being a good kid and things like that.
I mean, we went
don't know how many. Did she have lots of different foster kids, kind of thing? I don't know. So
I was her second foster kid. I was there the year and a half, and then after I went back to my home, of course I came back all the time, but they got another young man from New Jersey, but he was 7 years old, and he only lasted 6 months. He was bad news. And so I gave them a little space during that time. I didn't hang out too much, but then after he was gone, I came back pretty much 80% of the time. And then they got another kid about the following year, but he was only there a couple months, and then he got snatched back out. So I was the only foster kid that had ever been there for any duration of time. And out of 3 or 4 kids that had ever went there, they never had any girls. They were just all boys. And like I said, there was none that stayed there any longer than Craig, and he was there 6 months. And and then of course 7 and a half years I had an investment with them, his family.
Well, yeah, I'll be talking to you anyway because we have another story. It's a little bit different kind of story that we'll be doing. But I think we're going to explore some of this um, things that we've been talking about, and I think it will help you. Now, the let's see what questions people had. Now, when it comes to the juvenile Sasquatch speaking, you said a lot of times she would be behind you and tap you or something. She would say something, you would try to catch her speaking, but you never necessarily did. So it's kind of up in the air. You don't know if she was mind speaking or if she was audibly speaking, or you felt like
Or
maybe it was.
speaking and her lips didn't move. I don't know. You know, some people don't really have a lot of lip movement when they speak.
Yeah.
And like most of the time when I look at her, and she'd be like, her mouth would be like, like she'd smile.
She's got a really wide mouth anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like
maybe she was. I don't know, but for the audience sake, is that you were trying to figure that out, but it seemed to be elusive. The way the way that she would a lot of times follow from behind you and tap you and then say something, things like that. And I think that might be the hierarchy of a pack, or the way that they might do things, so to speak. And you know, it's kind of interesting. And you even said that the female seemed to be the one who was the leader between her and the brother. And that
when I seen him, that was the case. Like he was always behind her. It was like, yeah, she was like the leader. Yeah, true. Remember, she was taller than him. Like he was kind of like my height, maybe just a little hair. Like, yeah, maybe like a little hair shorter than I was actually, but he was thin and lankish, and she was chubby and like a head higher than me. I look back and her chin would be like right about here, so I'd be like.
And I think that's even learned too, because they in the Sasquatch pod, or whatever I guess you call them. What do they call it when the monkeys, apes and stuff, a gaggle or something like that? But anyway, their little group, their little tribe. Sometimes the alpha male, a lot of people would think, okay, he's the leader, and they are in a certain way, but the female seems to be the one who leads to like where they're going to be going, where they're going to bed down, where certain aspects of their daily routine is going to happen. If you go in the woods and you hear a warning call, that typically right after that whistle or the knock or whatever it would be, if they're warning, the next call will be the female making the noise, and then it will be further, and it'll be further because she's leading them out. So there will be, the female will make a call, and it will be a call that means follow me, everybody on me, kind of thing, that kind of thing. If that's what they decide they're doing, you know, is moving. So the female a lot of times is the leader, the alpha female, and that I think that's kind of interesting. That in your case there, that it seemed to be that she was already preparing to be the leader in the where they're going and when they're leaving, and just exactly what you said that she did. She would tell the brother, "Let's go," or like, "Come on," you know. The brother would follow, and I mean, that's pretty interesting stuff, you know.
Also, Brent, you know, like there was times like he'd be just standing there, and I would feel like they were talking, and she would look up, and he'd be like, and then he would walk off. You know what I'm saying? It was like they were communicating not only by gesture and expression, but maybe this way too, because it was almost like he was like, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna go over here and do something. I'm gonna go off somewhere else," and it'd be like, "Stop, look at him," and he'd be like, gone, he didn't wave or nothing. He'd be like, he just motioned, more face, I think, and then he'd take off. But, yeah. And also I wanted to say, because, people were asking about, did the parents know that they were with me? The first time, like, she said that they had noticed me from across, over the marsh, from across the inlet there. The mom, the dad, they had all seen me. They had all watched me. Now, how long, I couldn't tell you. How many times, I don't know. But I guess enough times that the children felt comfortable with getting closer and letting me see them, you know. And then, of course, after that, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure, nor can I say I believe that her parents were standing around watching. If they were, I'm either really blind and dumb, or I was so in my own zone that I could have never told you. But on several occasions, she would stop what she was doing and like perk up and make a move, and she'd be like, "I gotta go," and be gone, like that fast.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
the one time within the pine trees, she leaped from like a squatting down. She's like, "I'll be back. Or I'm gone. I gotta go," or something. I forget how she said it, but she jumped over the pine trees that were laid down behind us. It was almost like a wall, like if somebody created a wall and laid these dead pine tree branches, and they broke them off the tree because the trees are right behind us, and the branches all broke off. But it was like they were because we were sitting there. I remember seeing they were like road stacked on top of us, on each other, behind her or behind me, depending on how we were sitting. Normally, she was sitting with her back towards that, facing towards where the trailer was, so that I guess if she would know or see if my foster parents came out, she could dip out. But I feel like she heard something. Maybe mom and dad put out a call or a whistle or something, and because she had to go. Like, I don't know what the reason was, but yeah, she would just gotta go, be gone.
yeah.
You know?
As now this is things that have been said that from people who know a lot about Bigfoot and things like that, and have done this for many, many, many years. But they think that the juveniles are allowed to wander off some and just go learn. You know what I mean? So I think that they were taking advantage of that, because if she was saying that my parents don't know I'm here, I don't think they knew. They were taking advantage of that, letting us wander off and go learn. You know what I'm saying? And do, I think when they're little, they're watched over big time.
Yeah, because it seems like in a couple of videos we've noticed, like, it seems like the people, the one, it was like you could kind of make it out, like, I'm not too sure, but in the one, the guy, it seemed like when it was coming up, it snatched the young one and just took off my arm with it. It's like not something we grab our kids and run with, but that's the way that looked in that picture, and you're thinking, there must be an age thing where you're not going anywhere, and
it's kind of like we do with our kids. I have to let my kids have a little space now. I got a 15 and a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
17. I think she just turned 17. I don't know if that. I get their ages mixed up, and then I got two 24-year-olds.
I get mine mixed up. I had 10 kids.
Yeah. I mean, I have to let them go do their thing. So, like when she said, you said that she perks up and it's like, gotta go. Yeah, I think that.
Like a frog off a lily pad.
Yeah.
I will never forget how I remember I was like, man, how in the world? I couldn't jump it. It was like she was facing me. It was like she jumped backwards. It was crazy. And like I said, there were certain things that happened that just were like off the hook. Like the time when I was down at the dock and I walked up to the shoreline because I thought she was at the pine trees. And she was up there. She had gotten all these little blue eggs out of these nests in the pine trees and was eating the eggs. And all the shells were there on the outside. She was throwing them out of the pine tree. And so they're in the grass right there. And I'm looking up and looking down. And she comes out of the tree real quick. And she hands them to me. And I'm like, looking at them, these little blue eggs. And I'm like, ooh, they're eggs. Cool.
Mhm.
and she takes it and she bites into it, and then
Yeah,
tosses the shell.
good
And I
eating
was like,
there.
"Oh,
Yeah.
you gotta cook that. You can't do that." But
Yeah. Now you said that they had the pine boughs and stuff stacked up where it was like a blind.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it
blind.
was
But
near. Was it
I
near?
don't know that they did that.
And you said
I
it was
didn't see
near a trail. Oh, I'm sure they
trail.
did.
Huh?
I'm sure they did. That's kind of how they will watch and keep track of the human activity. Is they build like a little blind area, and then they have escape routes from behind it. They kind of know how to maneuver. Like when you said when she heard something, she leapt off. She knew exactly where she was going. They know their escape routes. It's almost set up similar to like if you are in the military, you have uh, your area set up a certain way where you have egress and in certain directions, and you know exactly how that works. I mean that's just interesting. In the pine thing, it seemed like that's used kind of regular. They stack them up, and it breaks up the silhouette. Sometimes it's not even pine; it's other type stuff. And if they sit still, you could walk right by them, even though you can see through it. You're not going to notice. They blend really well.
Yeah,
And,
hey, when she put her head down, I could see that because there is no face. Like I told you, she had like a curious, the little monkey, outline of the face was not like from the hair back. And, um, oh my God. It's sometimes when you place your eyes on what you remember you're seeing, you get stuck. Um,
she would bend her head down, and you couldn't see her so good.
yeah, because if she put her head down, it would blend into the background, especially in the nighttime, bro. Especially in the nighttime. In the daytime, you probably think like some people are like, "Oh, you thought that was a tree stump." I can see that. I can so
Yeah,
see that.
yeah. I've
It's
got one.
so
I've got one picture of this Bigfoot. He's standing. He's leaning. Got his hands, and he's leaning on the tree stump. And I mean, if you weren't like paying attention, looking at it, knowing that this is a picture of Bigfoot, he blend really well.
is
Um,
that one with the people riding down the road and they catch it on the out the window accidentally?
no, that's another one.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
that was quite something. I was like,
yeah.
wow, check that out.
Mark Hawkins, he has sent me several pictures, and they basically, even eyewitnesses, have said that they were looking and they saw something, and they're looking. It's kind of a little bit of ways, and they think, is that a stump? And they convince themselves that it's a stump or something, and then they go off and do their thing, and then look back, and that stump's gone. Stump is gone now. They'll just squat down and just sit still, because we recognize eyes, facial features, certain programmed things that, um, and I think that their abilities surpass what we even ponder. We don't even think about these things so much. I believe that they communicate. They can communicate a lot with nonverbal communication, even though I don't know if they mind speak or not, but nonverbal communications helps you be stealthy. Just like the special forces will, like that.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying, they can do. They can
Say a lot,
communicate with each other. And so I bet you they even have very subtle things. If they're
but
needing to be still, they might have little subtleties, that just
way it was when
minute little things that mean something.
like I said, when her brother left that time, it was like they said a lot without saying a lot, just a couple gestures, and he was gone. And
Yeah,
yeah.
very very interesting, man. You have a very cool story. I guess we're
I
coming
forgot to
up.
tell you.
Go ahead.
I kept emphasizing about the tree that was down in the baseball field that looked like it got struck by lightning that was burned off. Right when I
Yeah,
went back with my neighbor and my foster dad went back with me later, and I told them kids were standing there, I was like, it came from the burnt down tree. They were like, "Where's the burned down tree?" Or the struck by lightning. I was like, "What was right there?" and I forgot. I'm sorry I missed all this, but it's just overwhelming for me to keep my mind every time I place my mind on attaching the counters. I guess it just gets stuck. I'm sorry, but the tree was not there, and that was the anomaly of this whole mystery. Was like where they were like, well, it had to have been a bear, but it was dark black, and the trees are like brown gray. This thing looked like it had been a tree, then a big water oak tree from the distance, and it got hit by lightning, got the top blowed out of it, and of course, it'll be like this, and go up like conical like, and then like the center will be pale from the inside of the tree, but the bark and where it was hit by light will be all charred and burned off. That's what it looked like. And so when I've seen the faces of the Bigfoot now over the past year, I'm like, that had to be him. That had to be what that was. That sucker had to be huge. It had to be gigantically huge. I must have been 200 feet. I mean, I'm not sure. I'd love to go back and put it off and just put the picture back in perspective.
Yeah.
Wow, bro. It looked like a water oak tree. You know what I'm saying? But it's like they were all saying, they're like, well, if there was a tree there, nobody cut it down, it'd still be there. And so that's when my foster dad was like, well, there is no burnt trees down here. There's no tree hit by lightning. I'm like, yeah, so we see. But I didn't ever know what to say, Now it all makes sense. And ever since I've seen the Bigfoot pictures, one of the ones that where you've seen where it's all dark and the head goes into the shoulders, it's like it's melted into the shoulders, and the shoulders are like way wide, and there's like a pimple in the middle for the head. And wow, bro, it's like,
yeah, and if they were just to tilt their head down, to where when you're looking, it lowers that profile even a little bit more, kind of stay hunched a little, and throw their arms down to the side, even get on their knees to break up they can look like a big tree stump easily. So wow, so you did see it.
That's what I seen. I'm sorry, I tell people, no, I can't tell you I seen a Bigfoot. What I can tell you I seen was, to my acknowledgement, what I registered and what I acknowledged to everybody was, it came from the great big tree that looked like it was hit and burnt by lightning and broke the top off.
So the top had a darker. So this thing basically something was darker on the top of it, and it was
so where it was looked like it was broke off, or like where lightning hit it and dropped the tree off. You know how they'll tilt and break off, and so there'll be a high part on the back and a low part on the front. But in the middle, it'll be pale from the center of the tree. The inside the bark.
So that was the face.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now the dark spot where did it look like it was seared by lightning?
That's what I saw. That's what I told.
Okay. Well, it may have had a darker spot of the fur. Oh, that's pretty interesting.
The juvenile had black hair. It was short, but it was all rounded. She had a moon pie head, which doesn't make sense with a big. But at this point in time, I don't know how that works out or why that is. I don't understand, and I couldn't even speculate. I don't think it'd be. I think it'd be ignorant to try, but it's. I don't. Yeah, it's like. It's just like, I don't know, take a torch and burn the edge around cut a stump off, for firewood, and char the edge with a torch and tilt it sideways, and that's basically what I was seeing.
So basically, the hole in the middle of the tree was the face. The conical part looked like it was the back part. A tree broke kind of,
That's what it looked like. A tree broke off, yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. See, they can stand out in the open, and when a person sees, their mind automatically will try to. That's why I was telling you her face may not have been morphing. It's you, when you're looking, are trying to calculate what you're looking at and trying to conform it to something you know of. You looked at a Bigfoot standing there roaring at you, and your mind calculated that's a tree. And now when you were looking at her, your mind was calculating, and I think that it was humanizing it, and I believe that was mental. It wasn't that it was actually morphing. I believe it was you trying to fit that to a social norm of what humans are used to looking at and what have you. And that's my guess. And I believe that there's a lot of that has went on for you because of the emotionally calculating on what's happened and even so your case is kind of interesting in a way, very interesting from a very physical point, of exactly what happened, in reality, and then from an emotional standpoint, you figuring out what has happened, what happened, what did happen, what was happening, all those kind of things. Very interesting, man. And I guess we're coming up on an hour, maybe a little more now. Is there any last some things you want to say about the Bigfoot stuff, the juveniles, or the roaring incident? I'm glad that you clarified the tree thing because I'd hate
Yeah.
for that not to been in the in the whole
Yeah.
thing.
I hated it the first time that went by, and I'm thinking, why didn't I add the other part? Why didn't I finish that story? I was like, man, try to keep that.
Well, the tree
You
was
know,
gone, so in your mind you saw a tree that was missing, and so because I was going to ask you, did you see it? But I just assumed you didn't see it because
when
you know.
even when we went back to me and my friends, it was not there, and I'm like, well, it was there. And then when I told my father's dad, and then when he drove the truck around and we went there and we get out, and I was like, right there was a great big tree that got hit by lightning. It was all black and charred at the top, core center, a little pale in the middle. I said it was right there. It looked like it just happened. I said whatever the roar was, it came from the tree. And Dad's like, "Ain't no tree there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah, another
really,
interesting
there,
story.
it was not.
Interesting story.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool, man, for real. I guess we'll leave it there, and then we'll be talking about your other experiences there, and I haven't even heard anything about those yet. So, um,
I think the email had, for some oddball reason, trouble getting sent to you. Now, between me and you, I controversially be a part of some topics that not so much appreciated amongst the government, and especially when it comes to reptilians and such and such things. I feel as though my stuff is filtered, and I feel as though that when certain topics are sent out, I feel that not only does the writing get all scrambled and the message sound like an autistic kid trying to talk or
now
something.
I know you did send an email, and you had stuff listed. I scanned through that, but I think at the time I just didn't have time to read the whole thing in detail. So, um, yeah, but yeah, those things are censored sometimes. I think too, and I'll tell you more about that. A couple of things I've had happen since I've been doing this. One guy that I was going to interview before, um, from the Navy, some very strange stuff happened. Um, but that's for another show. We'll talk about that on the next show. But everybody out there in YouTube land, I appreciate you sticking this whole thing out. And now, if you click the screen, a little white dot will pop up in the corner of the screen. Um, and I think it's just a white dot with a little, looks like an exclamation point in it. But if you click that, it'll give you a drop down menu. I'll put the first story, if you haven't seen it, of his encounters with these juvenile Sasquatch, the whole story of that. I'll put
Oh,
that in the drop down menu so you can go watch that video, and then what you're hearing in this video will make a little more sense. And then I'll put play a few playlists or something like that. But you'll see Paul's, and it'll say Paul and whatever the title was, and be sure to check that out. And if anyone has a story that they want to share, you contact me at brentonson@gmail.com, and give me contact information. Give me at least a brief description of what your story is about, if you want me just to read the story because you don't want us come on the air, come on the show or anything, write the whole thing out and just say, I don't want to be known, or, tell me what name I can use, if I can use your first name, and all that kind of stuff. If anybody wants to contribute to help me with making these videos, there will be a link in the description to PayPal me. It's a real simple process. Click it once. It takes you directly to it. You enter the amount. It's an easy way to contribute. And I appreciate every contribution that I have gotten. It's going to help me through this slow dip we've had. Had a couple people say something negative about me asking for contributions, and related it to, well, that gives Christians a bad name. It has nothing to do with being a Christian. When I worked at KET, a PBS station here, it was the number 2 PBS station in the world, next to one that was in Japan. And we did educational content and distance learning, and I worked on a show called Comment on Kentucky, stuff like that. But we every year had fundraisers to raise money to help make the programs. The better a show is, or the more shows, it takes time, effort, money, and all these things to make them. So to liken that unto a ministry asking for money because I'm spreading the word or something, it's not that at all. I'm saying if you want to help this channel to make content, you can make a contribution. So I just wanted to clear that up because that kind of rubbed me a little wrong there. So anyway.
Did I say something?
What? Pardon?
I said, did I say something?
No. It wasn't you said something. There was a comment in one of the videos here recently that had said something about I guess some people have went to church too many times or watched TV ministries, and they ask for money and you get something, a blessing and all this kind of stuff. So it's put a bad taste in people's mouths, when people take advantage of that type of thing. But I'm asking for money to help me make these shows, just as if when I worked at KET, the PBS public broadcast station, we took donations and things like that, and that's how we funded, making the content. Sesame Street and all those kind of things, are made from PBS stations, and so if you want to, you can. If you don't want to, you don't got to. You ain't got to donate nothing. You watch it for free. But there's been lots of people here lately have donated something, from $1 up to 50. So it's very helpful. It helps to keep a person going to do these things, and the bigger of a budget a person has, the better the shows will be, because sooner or later this is going to escalate up into going places and doing shows. And I'd like to fly out to California right now and interview someone that has a really awesome story. I think I'm going to interview him tonight on Skype, like we're doing here. And it is the most awesome story. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. It's different than Bigfoot and Dogman and that kind of stuff, but this I've told you a little bit about it. You're going to love it, man. I'm telling you. But anyway, thank you all for watching. God bless, and I'll see you on the next video.